Hello, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another episode of Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I am your host, Miss Bumblebee, and it's good to see everybody here today. Thank you so much for dropping in. We got a lively crowd. In live from the Hive, where this show is recorded from. I got a lively crowd out here. We're Saturday morning refilling our coffees and everything before the show starts. If you want to participate in live from the Hive, you just have to be here 9:30 on Saturdays. That's Central Standard Time, so you have to calculate that to your own time zone because that's what time it is here. But regardless, you can show up anytime between now and like noon or 12:30 sometimes. We usually go 2.5 to 3 hours. You can show up anytime between there and hang out, and I'll read your comments. We have a good time. We look at some in Cryptic Corner. We look at some. Usually it's either like aliens or cryptids or ghosts, things like that. We have done other things too, like time travel and ball lightning, stuff like that. So there's a variety of topics that we're going to cover on this show, and I actually was looking back through my back catalog, and there's some stuff from the old channel, the Brain Bug channel, that I think I want to redo for HiveSci with HiveSci. So some of the topics that I've covered there, I'm either going to rehash them, look at them again, or totally redo them. So one way or the other, we're going to get a lot of that, the base level content active on HiveSci. So we're going to have more of the traditional cryptids coming up, and more of the famous UFO abductions and alien encounters. And if that interests you, stick around HiveSci, because we're going to break it all down for you. We're going to see if any science can be exuded from these different pieces of what do you call modern folklore, or sometimes modern fake lore, as we saw last week with the Ozark Howler. Now, to the topic at hand. So, when you think of giant spiders, right? Most people, and this ties into what I was just saying to you, most people think of Jabifofi, which was my second video that I ever did on the old channel, right? So, Jabifofi is this giant African cryptid. It's just a huge spider. It's described, depending on the account, like a giant orb weaver or like a giant tarantula, just depending on its kind of amorphous spider characteristics. Sometimes it's crossing the road like a tarantula. Sometimes it's hanging up in a web in a tree. So we're not covering that today because I decided if I'm going to cover giant spiders, I needed to start here in North America, where I am, and see what kind of giant spider lore comes from there, and then kind of work my way out. Now, Europe is also another place where giant spiders aren't as prevalent. You don't think of, because most people think when you think of giant spiders, Australia, Africa, South America, and maybe Southeast Asia, but Oceania more likely, and that's coconut crabs that people are seeing. I see Wild World in the audience there, and Wild World has an amazing video on giant spider folklore, which was actually able to help me jump off and get pedaling on this. So thank you, Tom. Really appreciate your contribution to the cryptozoological community, and it's nice to see another skeptical cryptozoologist in my midst, right? Someone else who thinks that most of this stuff is pretty blah. And there's it's either folklore, based in folklore, or fake lore, and we're going to find out which. Now, when it comes to North America, there were a couple that I did pick up from Tom, so I'm going to cover those. There's a few things that I wanted to branch off with first, and we're going to look at First Nation, Native American folklore regarding. Oh, that's the one that's blurry still. I need to fix that. Hold on. We'll get this one. Where are you, girl? There you are. Okay, so We're doing this with Willem DeFalco, with Fernando. Yeah, he's like, Fernando here. I like this guy. He sounds so sincere. Like the most sincere person presenting the most out there concepts. So Native Americans had their own concept and their own folklore about spiders. We got giant spiders in Native American folklore here. It's about 9 minutes long. I'm gonna speed it up to. We're gonna start at 1.25 and see if we can see how much we can get through before I have to speed it up more. But right now, let's see, is Fernando gonna be picked up by? Make sure the audio's coming through the right place. There we go. All right. And away we go!
This is Fernando for the latest Cryptids of the Week video. Thought I would mix another one of these in here while I'm continuing with your new suggestions in this series. So please go ahead and keep on with those suggestions. Please keep posting them in my suggestions video and I'll continue to take a look.
I take suggestions too. You can join the Hive Discord server. You can join the Patreon. You can hit me up on Discord, or not on Discord, on Twitter. What is it called now? Sax, or yeah. Just, I call it Twitter. I'm always gonna call it Twitter. There's nothing you can do about it. I'll dead name Twitter till the day I die, until Elon stops dead naming his child. So you can hit me up on Twitter, and I got a little group on there I can add you to as well. So let me know.
At them. This random page to the cryptids.wikia.com website actually brings back a cryptid that is related to another one that had a very good number of views, especially when it seems like anything involving giant spiders. So for example, a couple of years back I did one called the Jibafofi, if I'm saying that correctly, which is a gigantic Congo spider that still has a good number of views.
Even when you're talking about Native American folklore, we cannot escape the Jibafofi, because I opened with that because I knew it was going to come up. They're like, oh yeah, Jibafofi, when you talk about giant spiders. Have you heard of the Jibafofi? Of course you have. That's the quintessential giant spider, but it's not the only one.
Over 100,000 views, in fact. So, in honor of that, and then also based on this random page suggestion, this one has...
You don't have to super chat to make me smile. You just have to chat and I smile. Good morning, sweetie.
To do with a giant spider that's apparently located here in the United States. And you know me, you know how much I love specific locations. Well, I'm going to mention one here that if you travel there, who knows, you may have a chance of even seeing it there, along with a more recent encounter as well in a different location. So lots of fascinating info. Let's go ahead and let's talk about it. It has a very interesting name too. It's known as the spider grandmother. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating info associated with this pretty rare cryptid, but one that again has multiple locations in terms of sightings. So what is the spider grandmother? Well, it's a creature that's found mainly in the mythology of Native American cultures. Specifically, if you go to the Hopi or the Cherokees, you'll find tales related to this giant creature from way back when. That's probably passed down generations after generations. And the idea is this: it's just a big, gigantic spider, much larger than anything that you and I would see with a spider. Myself personally, I just have this eeriness when it comes to spiders. Now. They just look like from another planet. The way they jump, the way they have those giant fangs, they just simply make my skin crawl every time I get near one. But imagine something like that, regular-sized spiders having that kind of reaction. Now multiply it by many times in terms of a size, and here you have the spider grandmother. But interestingly enough, for at least those Native American cultures, it was worshipped. It was something that was actually considered almost like a god to them.
And see, I like that kind of spider mythology, right? I like when the spider is revered as a powerful protector, right? Like you're under its web of protection. I like the heroic spider in mythology. It's rare, so it's nice to see. No spiders in Antarctica, at least not any that we know about. Now, there are chelicerates in Antarctica, sea spiders. They're the biggest in the world. They're not true spiders though. They're chelicerates, which is the group that contains arachnids, horseshoe crabs, eurypterids. Eurypterids are the giant sea scorpions of the Paleozoic, before dinosaurs. The giant sea scorpions, those were eurypterids. But and sea spiders are in that group. They have really weird. Their organs are in their legs. Weird creatures. So they're all legs though. When I say in their legs, it's because they don't have anything else. They're just legs. They're a stem covered with legs. But yeah, they live in Antarctica and they get freaking huge.
because of its unique way. Despite the picture you're looking at here, it's actually seen as a very protective creature. This is a creature that apparently roamed the lands there with the Native Americans, and the way it lived is it would protect people, it would make sure that they didn't get lost, it would also make sure that they could help them in terms of giving advice. There was even other times where it would give medicinal cures. Apparently it was also a shapeshifter of sorts because it would basically live in a cave called
I want to be a shapeshifter. I'm actually wearing snake print today, not spider print. I don't have any spider print. Do they make spider print clothes? I bet I could get like a Black Widow outfit. That'd be kind of sexy, huh? With yeah.
called a kiva, which you're looking at a picture of here. And when it did so, it pretty much did that as the shape of an old woman. And then anytime it went out, then that's when it took on the shape of a giant spider. And so at least within those cultures, they saw it as some kind of creature that did good things, in other cases even as a leader as well. And so it's interesting to see that. Although there was a little bit of, I guess, warning associated with this creature. Apparently it would be told to kidnap mischievous children, although I imagine it's more tied to that kind of thing where...
Well, I mean, that's like... Oh, he's probably going to say the same thing. That's like where folklore about from any culture is going to say there's something in the woods that will grab you and take you away if you wander off too far. To keep kids close to home, it's just a common tactic.
Parents would tell their children, you better not do this in terms of some bad thing, otherwise this creature will come out and get you. And so that's where at least it has more of a sinister side. Now, as far as the location where this is found, again, you know I love specific spots. You're looking at it here. It's known as Spider Rock. Interesting, huh? And this is found in Arizona at a place called Canyon de Chelly. And if you go to that location, that's where apparently this spider grandmother...
Road trip! Who wants to do this? Let's go find Spider Grandmother. I'm here for it. You guys in? Extra smiles from Ember. Hi, good morning, Ember. $2. Thank you. Donate if you can, but yeah. Let's see. You fed your crows some hard-boiled eggs and they loved it, huh? Oh boy. These two are gonna have flocks of crows at doing their bidding, bringing them back dollars. See, now what you do is you gotta teach them how to exchange dollars for hard-boiled eggs, but buying eggs might cost more than, yeah, it might not be as lucrative as it sounds.
Mother is found or was found who knows how far back when. In fact, it was described that it was living at a rock that was bleached white by the sun because of its unique location, and so that's why this place has been called Spider Rock. I don't know though if it truly is called Spider Rock because maybe there are spiders or a large colony of spiders that lives there. Someone might have to point out to me, or I don't see that it looks like a spider, at least from these photos here. So if anyone else knows why it's called Spider Rock other than the idea that it could be housing the spider grandmother itself, then that would be interesting to hear. But at least that's its current location, or at least where it was to this day. So who knows? Maybe it's still...
So you could see a spider shape in this, just not a atypical spider. There's the weird spiders that have the humps and the big long chelicera, the like super long. I'll see if I can find a picture of them, but yeah.
Here, and if you go to that location, maybe on a trip, maybe on some other type of tour, you may be able to run into this creature there. Either way, though, if you do happen to come across it, the idea is, again, that it's doing good things, and it's not necessarily out there to try to harm anyone that comes across it. Now, as far as more recent sightings, and this is in quotations, because it's not too recent, but it's still within the in this case, 1900s, you have to go to 1948 to be specific, and there, at a place called Leesville, located in Louisiana.
Modern sightings in the 1900s or the 20th century sightings.
There was a family that was coming across a location called Highway 171 on one night specifically. So on that night, there they were. It was the guy. His name was William Sladen. He was with his wife. He was with his 3 young grandsons. There they were driving across that highway, dead of night. And then, lo and behold, right in front of them, they spied what was described as a gigantic spider. In fact, the size of a washtub. We all know how big a washtub is, especially when it comes to those giant ones that you see, let's say, in TV or in films. So here you had something that size, and it was apparently crossing the road right in front of them. When I was picturing this, I immediately just imagined the horror of seeing something like this, the headlights catching it in the far distance. You're probably shaking your head, wondering,
See, when someone says something like that, when people, it's a common way that giant spiders are seen seeing is like crossing the road in the distance. I always wonder if they're not seeing a big cat, a leopard, a mountain lion in North America, a leopard in Africa and in Southeast Asia. If they're not seeing the silhouette of a leopard or large cat dragging a struggling ungulate, flailing its legs across the road. That's I almost 100 like thinking about what that would look like. Caught in the headlights, in the distance, silhouetted against the starry sky on a lonely road. Something moving across the road with flailing legs as it goes across the. Yeah, that's gonna. But I digress.
Is it really a spider when it comes to that size? And that's how they described it, the size of a washtub. Apparently, it emerged from one side of the road, just ahead of them, crossed the other side of the road, probably wasn't even paying too much attention to them at the time. No doubt that they were slowing their speed as well when it came to coming across this creature and realizing what was in front of them. And then that was it. It just disappeared right into the brush on the other side of the road. Everyone saw it. The entire family, the guy, the wife, the three grandsons, they all saw it right then and there. So it's not like it was just one of them and the other one happened to just not see it. No, in this case, there were multiple witnesses. And then it was described that, needless to say, that they didn't want to travel that night, any other night, in other words, in that road because of what they just saw. So if you wanted to...
Like Fernando, just had you considered that possibility about the predation scenario when you discussed this? I don't know if this has been proposed before, but that's my speculation on that. Kind of like, but you know, I have my own pet theories about everything. Like I believe the Loch Ness monster was a seal. Like I like the initial sighting crossing the road. I don't have any doubt in my mind, based on the description, that he was seeing a seal, because seals can make themselves almost like a ball shape, but then they can stretch out, so they're really worm-like in their movement. Their necks especially stretch long. Like they talk about Bernard Hölvelmann's long-necked seals or whatever from his list of sea monsters. But you don't need a cryptid long-necked seal. Regular seals are long-necked seals. They have extremely long necks that is longer than you think. However long you think a seal's neck is, it's fully extended, it's at least a third longer than that. Anyway, back to the spiders.
To go to another place that you have a chance to come across this spider grandmother, this giant spider. If you're brave enough to do so, then you can go there to Leesville in Louisiana, and who knows, you may be able to see this gigantic spider. You'll never catch me going there, because to me at least, I don't want to come across spiders. I don't want to come across gigantic spiders, no less. So something along those lines.
I want to come across spiders, and the bigger the better. They're animals, you know. They're not monsters. They're just animals.
I'll leave it to anyone else if they wanted to try to go for the hunt of these creatures. But what do you guys think? Spider grandmother. Anybody else have anything else? Any other interesting info that I might have missed that is good to come?
Yes, like the owl's legs hidden away, stashed away. Yeah, we'll do another sea serpent episode soon. Because like I said, I'm going to rehash a lot of stuff that I've covered in the past on the old channel that now I need to move over here to HiveSci. So I will cover sea serpents again soon, so don't even sweat it. And we had, if you need some supplemental sea serpents, I had a great team of people on a panel for the 90 years of Nessie back in May, for the 90 years since that initial sighting that I just talked about. Had Dr. Donald Prothero. I had Wild World, who's in the audience right now. I had Captive Desk, Dave, who's also in the audience, and I had Nikki from Squatch Talk on. So we talked about all sorts of theories about what lake monster, specifically the Loch Ness monster, might be. So you can go check that out. It's in the back catalog. And speaking of Nikki, I was just on her channel last week, and last Sunday, and we discussed evolution regarding Sasquatch. I had somebody invite me to come squatching with them. I always have people wanting to take me to cryptid locations and stuff, though, but I just don't have the resources to travel right now, or I would. Let me catch up with the chat here real quick before we switch videos. I'm hit the hay, but we'll have this. Okay, night, sweetie. Hit me up later if you want to meet. Well, tomorrow, I guess it is for you. To let me know if you want me to come on. I allow spiders to live in my apartment so they can catch bugs. I like less. Precisely. Owls have sexy legs, you think? We need to do a giant owl episode at some point, too, I'm sure. We got lots of giant birds. We just did a giant bird video recently with Washington's eagle and the giant thunderbird of Illinois. All right, here is this guy talking about the Mojave giant tarantula. Who's ready for this?
8 legs, 8 eyes, 2 giant.
Oh my gosh! Did I say Sasquatch? Yeah, Nikki's Sasquatch secret. Squatch talk is Pat. Yeah, Pat's all right, but Nikki's. I like Nikki. Nikki's my girl. Me and Nikki are tight. I can't believe I said the wrong channel name, Lockbeard. Thank you. I didn't even know you were here. Lockbeard's from the Squatch community. Yeah.
Fangs, and it just crawled into your headlights.
All right, Mojave Mysteries with ML Biram.
Naturalists will tell you you're never more than 6 feet away from a spider. And in the Mojave Desert, we have plenty of large spiders. Now, I've always said that the smaller the bug, the bigger the bite. But I've never encountered something like this report. In 2007,
right, and that is a good point of interest for tarantulas, especially because generally the tarantulas you're going to run into in the Mojave are almost 100% harmless to humans. Their bite would the mechanical damage might be more significant than a regular aradia, but the venom is not going to be anything compared to other North American spiders like widow spiders or brown recluses.
Working as a rural postal carrier near the Mojave Desert town of Baker, claimed as she was returning home after a long day on the job, she encountered something straight out of a nightmare. Rounding a bend on a country lane, she saw what she first thought to be the back of a dog or coyote tugging at a dead rabbit at the side of the road. But what backed into her headlights as she slowed to a stop was anything but. Describing it as a huge black spider with an abdomen the size of a football, she watched in horror as the thing tried dragging the dead rabbit with its massive front fangs across the road in front of her. Shocked, but feeling somewhat safe in her truck, the woman decided to speed forward and squash the massive arachnid. But just as she hit the gas, the huge spider dropped the rabbit and scurried into the tall grass at the side.
Why would you want to smash him? He's just a good boy getting a rabbit. He's hungry. She's hungry. Probably he if it's out wandering around, but that might be, presumably. That's the thing, too. When you get a tarantula and it's carrying a vertebrate and it's up on its tall legs, it looks pretty intimidating and it looks a lot bigger than it is. But she doesn't need to smash it. It was just trying to eat a bunny. Everybody eats bunnies. Don't even get all Watership Down on me. I get it. We all grew up with that. Very sad movie. But rabbits on the food chain are like the baseline for Pat's dog, Petey. Yeah. I haven't watched Squatch Talk in a while. Pat disappeared for a bit. I see him streaming now a little bit more. But, yeah, for a while there. Pat vanished. I hope he's doing all right. Anyway, yeah, still require punishment for correcting you. Oh my goodness, how would you like to be punished? How should we punish Lockbeard? That would be a big squish. People do that though. People swerve to smush snakes. They swerve to smush turtles. They swerve to smush possums, cats. People are cruel. These freaking. I live in a rural area in the Midwest. These I hate to be derogatory about it, but these rednecks, you can see where they swerve to run over the snake. When you see the dead snake on the road, you can see the swerve marks where they swerve over to smash it. And most of the time it's harmless snakes. But even if it is a venomous snake, leave it alone. It's just like the reason it's on the road is because it needs to get its metabolism going to to live its life. Just like chill, leave it alone.
Side of the road. The woman stopped and looked for it from the safety of her cab, but being unable to see it even when using her flashlight, she decided to race home and tell her sister. In the morning, both women returned to the spot and found the rabbit was indeed gone. But whether the monster spider had returned for it or some other desert predator had dragged it off, they could not say. The woman's sister said...
Now, I don't know of any confirmed cases of any North American tarantulas eating an adult rabbit. They definitely, the larger species in North America could definitely take down a baby bunny. I'm not sure what kind of rabbit this was. Either we're in the Mojave, so it could even not even really be a rabbit, but a jackrabbit. Imagine how big the spider would be then.
that she thought her sibling might have been tired and simply mistaken it for something else. But the woman then, and to this day, swears she saw the creature. I don't know if I would have tried to squish that spider. I mean, what if it got up under your undercarriage? Now, the footage you're seeing now is actual phone footage from a night when I was out camping. A large male tarantula came into camp looking for a female because it was tarantula mating season. Instead of love, he found my flip-flops. Now, that made me wonder, are there historical accounts of giant spiders in the Mojave? Turns out there are. The idea of there being...
Okay, and I love, that looked like a Arizona, maybe an Arizona blonde, a Phonopelma hinsei, but it could have also been, I think it was a Phonopelma. I'm almost certain it was an Phonopelma. It could have been a Brachypelma, but I think it was an Phonopelma, and I think it was a hinsei, just based on the location, not necessarily on its look. Why squish the spiders? Nobody needs to squish spiders. They made a movie about Watership Down. Oh my gosh, Ember, don't watch it. Well, you can watch it. It's almost, what is it, rotoscoped, right? It's like a rotoscoped movie. Did Bakshi make that? Did Robert Bakshi produce that? Or was that maybe Rankin and Bass? I can't remember which one. One of those not Disney animated studios. People are the worst. They are indeed. Pro tip, if a critter already has food, they don't care about you just then. Exactly, Ember. Leave them alone. I would have stopped and watched it carry its rabbit. I wouldn't have... I would have observed it. I wouldn't have tried to smash it or interfere with it. I probably would have got out of my vehicle and got my phone out and stuff. You all know me. I would have been all up in its business while it was hunting, but I wouldn't have disturbed it. Like, I wouldn't have touched it and stuff, or made like I was going to scratch or smash it. I have handled thousands of snakes, and many times people take me to a snake claiming it's poisonous snake. Almost every time is harmless. Yeah, unless you're Kent Hovind bending over to pick up a pygmy rattlesnake off the sidewalk. Dude picked up a rattlesnake and got bit on the thumb like 3 times. He didn't see the rattle. Anyway, that's the problem. That's the problem with squishing the spider. He found some flip-flop love. Spiders can't wear flip-flops. Could you imagine, though, how that would sound? Laryngeal nerves give a limit to how big these things can grow. Yeah, they can't get enough oxygen to into their bloodstream right at the current oxygen levels. It really limits the size of I think it was Rankin and Bass. Okay, I'm not sure. Yeah, but yeah, there's a few different factors that come into play for why the moderns, like why spiders specifically can't get big. Spiders have never been bigger than what we have today. Today's spiders, the Goliath bird-eater spiders, the heaviest spider that we know of from the fossil record to modern time, nothing's ever exceeded it in size. And the giant huntsman is the largest leg span in its extent, and nothing's ever exceeded in size. The biggest spiders ever live now. Not the biggest insects and arachnids, though, because different body plans allow things to get a little bit bigger than this. But the Goliath bird eater is probably pretty close to as big as a tarantula can get. I can't imagine 13 inches, like just a little bit over 30 centimeters. It's really pushing it after that of a believable tarantula body style because the limitations on how heavily they can shed a molt, or get that. Because every time they molt, it's thicker the next time, and heavier the next time, and bigger the next time. So at a certain point, they're gonna get trapped inside their own molt, regardless. That's what happens to a lot of lobsters.
Giant spiders living in the Mojave Desert goes way back. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, newspapers were carrying actual articles like this one, which claimed 3 men had disturbed a nest of giant tarantulas and were attacked by a pack of the huge spiders before having to flee for their lives. Other articles claimed that giant spiders had been observed jumping up to 16 feet to attack people and ate all sorts of animals and meat. Many prospectors told tales of dealing with huge spiders in the more remote areas of the Mojave, and many a campfire was livened by the fearsome stories, although probably...
That is a Chilean rosehair. That's like the most docile tarantula you can find. Grammostola rosea? Grammostola rosea. They live in the Atacama Desert, so they're really docile because... please don't kill me is the kind of the message you send in the Atacama Desert, but they love it. They're like so dry. They any humidity causes these guys to get they're really a really high risk of getting fungal infections and having respiratory issues, building up humidity in their book lungs because they're evolved to live in such a dry climate. But they're so docile, so gentle, and so beautiful that they became popular on the pet trade. And then the species actually went on the at that risk list. I think it's still at risk. Let me check its site and see. There we go. Not prose hair, rose hair. Did I get the name right? Yep, Grammostola rosea. I nailed it. Nailed it. Yeah, that's this beauty right here. And as a pet, they were very popular. There's multiple toxins. Yeah, you don't want to get bit by it, but they don't really bite. Okay, it doesn't have anything about its conservation status on here, but I know they used to be like super cheap and there were hundreds of them. But like hundreds of them at like expos and stuff. There'd be like tables full of adults, wild caught adults from the Atacama Desert. You think they're tasty? Tarantulas, I hear they're good. I hear they taste sort of like shrimp.
More often than not, accompanied by a bottle or two of the worst sort of whiskey. Scientists today laugh at these accounts because although millions of years ago there did exist giant spiders up to 2 feet across, it is believed by many...
No, there didn't.
That the atmosphere of today does not contain enough oxygen for an arachnid that big to be able to survive. And while
there were never spiders 2 feet across. Let me make that perfectly clear. That's not a true statement at all. The biggest spiders that have ever existed live right now, as far as we know. The biggest, as far as we know, any spiders that we've discovered, the largest exist right now. That's not true for things like millipedes, for instance, where we have millipedes that are several meters long, or dragonflies, which griffinflies aren't really dragonflies, but you can make that correlation. Scorpions, sure, there were gigantic scorpions. Pulmonoscorpio kirkinensis. The sucker was every bit of the size of a cat. It was I think three. It was just shy of a meter, like 2.7 meters. I don't want to get it wrong. I'm not gonna speculate on that, but it was huge. Spiders, not so much. Spiders are on their heyday now, just like us. They're living their best life. They are the new kids on the block. Showed up in the middle of the Mesozoic, just like like the mammals kind of finding their ground. Tarantulas and spiders, kind of the same deal. We're all modern creatures. No subfossil ancient spider species. Thank you, Lockbeard. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for that blurb. Yeah, this was the message that I get about their status on the pet trade is coming from like the price of them went like through the roof. They went from being like you get like a rose hair for like $15 at an expo to now they're generally a little bit higher. I think the lowest price I've ever seen for a rose hair, and it was for a sling, it was $35. So I mean, they're a lot more expensive now than they were.
People actually enjoy keeping large spiders as pets. So far, nothing the size of our old accounts have been recorded. But who knows? In some remote area of the world, there still might be some 8-legged giant waiting to be discovered. I just hope it's not going to be in the Mojave Desert.
And that's just it, too. There are spiders that are only known from a holotype, right? The Hercules baboon spider is only known from the single holotype, and it housed in a museum, right? And it's the biggest old world tarantula that there is. It's bigger than the king baboon, but there's only one specimen of it. Now you'll see people selling king baboons as Hercules baboon spiders on the pet trade, but those are just king baboons. And when we talk about Gibbophofi, we'll get deep into the king baboon, or to the Hercules baboon and the king baboon. So if you're interested in knowing about those tarantulas, it's a really cool story. It also involves what's his name from Lord of the Rings, his wild things. They actually went to the Congo looking for the Hercules baboon tarantula.
I'm ML Behrman, and I'll see you next time on Mojave Mysteries.
All right, so Mojave. So we have one in the Mojave, and then Fernando had one in Louisiana. Checking down the list now. Here's the Missouri River. Now this is the one that, if you want, I would have pulled up Tom's channel and showed his section on these two, but I didn't want to feel like I was stealing his content, because I wouldn't have much commentary to say if I let Wild World present it, because they cover everything I want to say about it for the most part. Alright, come on.
For years, people have been encountering cryptids, creatures that have yet to be recognized by science, with some of the most famous ones being that of the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Yeti, and the Mikele Bembe.
I would eat a tarantula if I was in Thailand or something and it was offered. I'd bite out this from a street vendor. I'd probably also eat roaches or any other bugs that they got cooked up. I'm not picky. I like eating bugs. Sea bugs are my favorite, but I'll eat land bugs too.
However, one interesting cryptid is that of the giant spider. For years, people have been coming forward with their strange encounters, and one of these was recently told by a man who was fishing in the Missouri River. A man who called himself L. Smith said he had a strange encounter while fishing in the Missouri River. He claims that while here he suddenly noticed a large hairy creature, and that the animal in question was over 5 feet in length and looked like a spider. He said the following about the encounter: "I'm lucky to go fishing almost every weekend, so I know what kind of animals live around here. I have plenty of experience around the woods and rivers. It was around noon and I sat down for a few minutes to smoke when I started hearing dry leaves moving to the left. I turned my head to where I heard the noise and see a huge long pair of hairy legs grabbing my canteen I just placed there a few seconds ago. It really scared me and I almost swallowed the smoke." End quote. He went on to say that the encounter didn't last long and that he didn't see the...
How big was so when he says arms, how big were the arms reaching out, I guess, is what I want to know. How long were they? I can't think of anything in Missouri that would match the description or even come close to the description of a giant spider, though.
The creature for very long. The only thing that he remembered was that this creature was large and that it looked like a huge spider, something he'd never seen in this area before. Smith said that after the encounter he decided to go back to the area in the hopes of finding the creature, but said that when he returned he wasn't able to find any evidence of the animal being there, saying that it was frustrating because he was sure about what he just witnessed. He said the annoying thing about having this encounter is that no one believes him when he tells the story.
Yeah, I'm having trouble believing it too. I feel like maybe someone dipped your cigarette in DMT or something. There's the description's kind of vague, just vaguely spider. Is it was it a ground spider, like a tarantula, like a megalomorph with heavy set and really furry? Was it a hunting spider, like a huntsman, or a wolf spider, or a wandering spider? Was it an orb weaver that somehow gotten out of its web with long spindly legs? I want to know.
He said though that he knows what he saw, and going from his estimations this creature would have measured in at just over 5 feet. It's interesting to note this is the first known sighting of a giant spider in Missouri. Those who read this story said that what this person encountered could have been the Jabbar Fofi.
Nope, it was the Ozark Howler. Definitely, it was in Missouri. It was the Ozark Howler, right? That's what we learned last week. Any cryptid in Missouri that's vaguely in the area of the Ozarks that doesn't have another name just gets lumped under the Ozark Howler. All he had to do was say the howled at him, and it would have fit perfectly with the narrative.
The Jabbar Fofi, more commonly known as the Congolese giant spider,
Jabba
is that
Fofi.
of a large undiscovered species of spider that is reportedly
We're
the
not
size
covering
of a man.
Jabba Fofi today.
And
Come
having-
on. What do we got here?
A few years back, this giant spider was captured by tourists in the Dominican Republic.
All right,
As
I
their
think
tour guide came
that's
to a
it
stop,
on
the
the
giant
on the
spider...
Missouri spider. We're just doing North American spiders today, unexplained mysteries. So you're gonna have to cut you off here. This one though, did this woman encounter a giant spider in the national park? Let's find out. This is 3 minutes.
This woman allegedly encountered a giant spider while hiking with her friends. She said the following: "While in the Great Basin National Park, I encountered a large spider. I was here with 2 friends when I saw this creature. It happened in early 2007. Me and my friends have always enjoyed hiking.
I'm gonna tell you, whoever cut this video together has never been to Great Basin National Park, if this is what they think it looks like.
We planned this day for a while. During our trip, we said that we would stay here for several hours. When we arrived, we
Have you ever seen a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon? Great Basin National Park.
started heading out straight away.
I don't know, this could be like a tree stand near a water source or something. I'm being facetious.
During this trek though, we saw a creature none of us could identify. It looked like a giant tarantula. It slowly made its way into the path we was on, but when we approached to get a better look, the creature retreated. We all got a good look at it and had similar reactions. We were surprised because none of us had seen a spider this big before. The encounter only lasted for around 30 seconds, but in this time we was able to detail the animal. It had a large orange abdomen with long black legs. If I had to guess, I'd say the creature was around 16 inches in length. After doing some research, we found out the largest spiders reach...
People are notoriously bad at estimating animal sizes on site. But there are large tarantulas, again, in Great Basin. Let's see, what do we have? As far as spider species, Great Basin National Park. There's some surveys here. Where's the tarantula information, though? Because Great Basin National Park is one of the places where you can go to watch the tarantula migrations. There we go. Tarantula species. Come on. Tarantula hawks. Of course, yeah, there's definitely tarantula hawks in the Great Basin. No doubt. But they have to be hawking something. Does the park not have a list of species? Phonopelma hensi is the most common spider, which is the one we just looked at earlier too. I used to have one of these. Unfortunately, she died, but I had a female. This is a male. You can tell it's a male because its abdomen will be smaller than its cephalothorax, right? The cephalothorax is the head and the body. And then the abdomen will be smaller. With the female, the abdomen's either as big or bigger than the cephalothorax. The males also tend to have longer legs to body ratios. So seeing a leggy male on the move, they do tend to look a lot bigger than they are. I think, what else is in? Yeah, so they also often call it the Arizona blonde or the Texas brown, or yeah, they have a few different common names in different areas. But this is the species. There's other species of tarantulas that live in the Great Basins too, though. This is just the most common species. There's some red knees, maybe. Let me see. Anyway, let's get back to the description.
And 12 inches in length. We went back to where we saw the creature because there was a stick nearby. The giant spider had walked over the stick and it was slightly bigger than that, so we thought this would give us a guide for how big the spider was. We measured the stick and it was around 15.5 inches in length. We tried to find out what spider most closely resembled the one we saw, but we couldn't find anything. Due to it being several years ago, we now question what we saw.
There's no 15-inch spiders in the desert southwest of North America that I'm aware of. No species that grows that big in North America at all. There are South American species that can get to the 12-inch mark, for sure, 30 centimeters. They rarely exceed that, though. I've heard, speculation that they could get a little bit bigger than that, but like in perfect conditions. But, yeah.
But one thing I do remember us doing is the measuring with the stick. The animal in question looked old as it didn't try to move away fast when we saw it. It just slowly made its way back into the sticks. I would have guessed due to its size that it was a full-grown adult.
Well, tarantulas are a little slow. They're not, generally they're not super fast animals, especially desert species.
I've told a few people this story and they suggested that what me and my friend saw was a large tarantula. Spiders located in this particular area though don't grow very large, and there aren't many species that reside here. There have been stories of spiders being witnessed in other deserts, and these particular encounters do match this description, but the Great Basin is not known for having these types of large spiders. The most likely case is that they misidentified what they witnessed. So what do you guys make of this story? And do you think
that they saw a big tarantula and overestimated the size of it?
Encountered a large spider? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, they just saw a big tarantula. My opinion on it, of course. Let's see, what else you got for us? Unexplained mysteries. Giant spider on a highway in Canada. This is where it's going to be hard for a spider to eke out a living. Canada.
Every year, people witness things they can't explain. Whether it's
so I want to say before we get too far into this that arthropods generally are not following that Bergman's rule. They don't get bigger at least not terrestrial arthropods. They don't get bigger the further north they go. Generally they get smaller and less abundant. So Canada, not a great place for giant spiders to try to eke out a living. Mexico would be all right as far as North America goes. You could eke out a living in Mexico or on some Caribbean islands.
UFO or mysterious creatures, these encounters don't usually get told. Recently, we've talked about giant spiders in the Congo, but this person encountered a mysterious creature in Canada. Isa27 from Reddit said the following. I live on the west coast of British Columbia in Canada.
Okay.
I was driving my girlfriend back to her grandparents' house 2 towns over from mine, which is around a 2.5 hour drive. I had driven her home and spent the day visiting her family. This town she is from is right on the coast. After my stay, I then began my trip home. Around 25 to 30 minutes into the drive, I'm on the highway that runs parallel to the mouth of the river on one side. As I'm driving, it's getting dark, but I don't feel tired at all. There is a few rest stops along the road on my right. I needed to use the toilet, so I started slowing down at the first rest stop, and that's when I noticed something scurry across the road. This thing looked weird. It had 4 legs and was really black. From what I could see, this creature didn't have any texture or anything to it. It was very dark, so I couldn't make out anything on the creature. It ran out of the bush and over the rails.
Did it run sideways? Did the giant spider run sideways? I'm just turning ideas in my head because you mentioned the coast. Did the giant crab run scuttily sideways? Maybe? You think?
It was going slow enough that the wind and the highway noise was gone. This meant I was able to hear this thing, and it sounded like metal tapping as it ran over the road and rail. Its body was shaped like how people describe a UFO, a almost flat disc shape, like an oval stretched out with the legs protruding from the front and back. It had no features, no eyes, no face and no mouth. It ran across the road with its limbs stretched out as it ran. Then it ran into the rest area and over a bank, and I'm guessing into the nearby river. I kept driving as I wasn't comfortable getting out the car. As I was driving home,
really think this guy saw a big crab running across the road. That's what it sounds like.
I kept trying to think of what this thing could have been. I've tried searching this up online, but I've never had any luck. This thing was big, and if I had to guess, I would say it was the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. If anyone can help me figure out what I saw, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Based on the
what do you guys
region,
make of this story? And have any of you experienced something like this before? Let me know your thoughts.
I'm gonna say, just speculating. I don't. When you said that last part about being the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, but if I had to get speculate on species, I would say the genus crab, which is Cancer magister, which get pretty big. They live up and down the west coast, from the Aleutians to Santa Barbara, California. But they're not nearly as big as he's talking about here. They are the biggest crab that'll be coming up on land in British Columbia, though. The common crab or Pacific crab is another name for it. So, yeah. The more you know. All right. So now we're going to remove completely out of the realm of these creatures can't obviously and definitely cannot exist into. We're going to move up to the East Coast. We're going to talk about a spider that has a little more plausibility to it, at least some actual folklore to it as opposed to fake lore. Here we go. On the main island of Islesboro, searching for a spider she wasn't sure was real. They get the spider right up on their sign here. Now, there's no YouTube content about this, so I'm like, well, no YouTube content strictly about this. But this is another one that I learned of from Wild World. So thank you, Tom, for this one. Durkee General Store in Islesboro, Maine, located near the possible origin of the upland spider. Let seekers of the giant arachnid know they are getting close. My husband and I were about to embark on a long drive from Washington to a cabin on the Maine coast, just across West Penobscot Bay from Islesboro, a skinny, sparsely populated 13-mile-long island. Brian and I were ecstatic at the prospect of lolling about for 7 days, but still worried that we'd ultimately get stir crazy. So I was checking out the Wikipedia entry for Islesboro, thinking that a day trip to the island might be nice. Scanning the entry, my eyes fell on the words upland spider. That sounds interesting, I thought, and clicked on the link. Oh, wow. The spiders I read are said to be unique to Islesboro and huge, up to 8 inches across, with their legs splayed with red eyes. Some specimens are reported to be large and heavy enough to create audible footsteps in a quiet room. I read with simultaneous fascination and horror. I would just be fascinated. There wouldn't be any horror. Of course, the entry was also peppered with caveats. Most of the sentences describing the arachnid employed phrases like thought to be and said to be. I wondered, did this spider actually exist? I would go to Islesboro and decide and find out. If you go to Islesboro, Maine, Brian is used to my compulsive schemes to see a bit of Americana or eccentricity, So he was patient with me, even enthusiastic. He discovered that Portland, 2 hours south of Islesboro, is host to the International Cryptozoological Museum, or Cryptozoology Museum. That's Lauren Coleman in Maine, yeah. He is host to the International Cryptozoological Museum. Cryptozoology Museum. I keep saying it's cryptozoological. It's not a logical, it's zoology. He figured that with its focus on hidden animals that remained unverified by science, such as the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot, it would whet our appetites for hunting down the upland spider. Plus, we could ask museum founder Lauren Coleman what he knew about the elusive creature. Coleman met us at the entrance to the museum on a side street in downtown Portland and cheerfully took $14 for 2 tickets. He has a professorial air with a full head of gray hair, a gray beard, and sharp blue eyes. He has written more than 35 books on cryptozoology and is a fixture on such shows as Unsolved Mysteries and other programs that examine matters like the existence of UFOs. Unfortunately, he didn't have much to say about our spider. That sounds like something the island residents made up to drum up the tourist trade, he said dismissively. We enjoyed ourselves anyway, taking pictures with the huge moldy-looking Bigfoot statue and peering at supposed fecal samples of the abominable snowman. And I was pleased to discover a corner dedicated to giant spiders of the Congo and Cameroon, which recounted in typed text out on printed paper how missionaries reported seeing spiders half the size of Volkswagens. Our Java Fofi, which is persistently making its way into this content today. You'll get your own show, Java Fofi. Don't worry. Don't worry. We continued on our trusty Pontiac Vibe, driving slowly up the coast towards Islesboro. Soon after settling into our charming gray shingled cabin just outside of Lincolnville, we went into town to purchase ferry tickets to Islesboro. About a half hour ride past other small forested islands when I asked the man at the ticket counter, who sported a salt and pepper ponytail and New England Patriots polo shirt, about the upland spider. His blue eyes widened. Are all the people from Maine blue-eyed? Stephanie, are all you people have blue eyes up there? What's up with that? Why does everybody from Maine have sparkling blue eyes? It's out there. What's going on? There's got to be some kind of explanation. Oh, it's real, he said, stretching out his fingers to show me the size. But it only lives on the north end of the island, up island. It's a habitat thing, he said, cryptically adding, ask at Durkee's General Store, they'll know. Durkee's alerts you to the fact that you are in up island spider territory with an enormous brown plastic and fabric model perched on its sign. Wikipedia has told me that residents of Islesboro believe that the heart of the upland spider population can be found at a church near Durkee's. The teenage checkout girl hadn't heard about that, but she directed me to the church and assured me that the spider is real. I think I saw a baby one, she said, making a circle about 2 inches in diameter with her hands, but they can be the size of a dinner plate. The Free Will Baptist Church, organized in 1821, building in 1843, a quintessential New England clapboard structure with black shutters and a black steeple, was closed that afternoon, but we could easily walk around the grounds and the graveyard. The idea that the up island spider, may have first been transported to Islesboro in a coffin, hence the church where the coffin was placed, as the origin and core of the spider population. So now we're getting to some folklore about it. A few crickets chirped and a plane droned overhead while we tramped over grass and sponge-like moss, though I kept my eye on the ground, skating for brown hairy legs and red eyes. I only came across deer and moose scat, as well as a small, brilliantly red dragonfly resting on a blade of grass. Brian teasingly pointed out webs and their tiny spider residents in the white flowering bushes scattered around the cemetery. Later, we rushed back to the terminal to make our last ferry out at 4:30. With a few minutes to spare, I stepped inside the keeper's dwelling of the Isle Burrows old lighthouse, Grindle Point Light, just stepped from the terminal. The old residence now housed a sailor's museum featuring maritime artifacts, photographs, and Jim, a volunteer, was sitting behind the desk by the door. We got to talking after I signed the guest book. I decided to ask about the spider. Jim, as an elderly gent, was with a shock of white hair, seemed like the type of person who'd give me a straight answer. Well, Jim doesn't have sparkling blue eyes, so maybe he'll be more honest with you. Everybody else has sparkling blue eyes. Is there a correlation? I don't know. Well, I've seen small ones, he said, making the same circle with his hands the checkout girl at Durkee's. Yeah. He laughed. They show up at the most inopportune moments, like crawling on your bedspread. Eek. We had a great week in Maine, even if we didn't find any upland spiders. We dawdled in cafes and bookstores. Yeah, so that's going to be pretty much, well, hold on. Actually, they get into what I wanted to talk about here. Okay, well, blah, 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 blah. We had a great time in Maine. Yeah, we made lobster rolls, ice cream, and locally brewed Andrew English Pale Ale, our daily midday meal, and tried to burn off some of the calories with woodsy climbs in Camden Hills State Park and walks along the blueberry field of Beach Hill Preserve. We even went canoeing in Portland's Casco Bay with dear college friends and pondered moving to the area for good. That's where one of my good friends lives too, in Casco Bay. So I hear it's beautiful. All right. Let's see. I wonder if they drug test the guy who said he saw the spider as big as a VW. It was like back in the early 1900s, I think. Cleaning your hellhole. The cat's helping. Our world needs tarantulas the size of VWs. Let's breed them. I'm working on it. Slow process. All right. Once back in Washington, I emailed Jonathan Coddington, a curator of arachnids and myriapods at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History. I sent him a couple pictures that Isleboro residents had taken of what they took to be up-island spiders. One poised in a sink, one hovering on a log. Almost certainly Dolmedes tenebrosus, Coddington graciously shot back. Of course, I had to look it up. The dark fishing spider, found all over the Northeast and South for that matter. There was nary a red eye to be seen, and the females, the larger of the sex, maxed out about 3.5 inches, including the legs. Well, it made sense, but I thought even if ultimately the up-island spider didn't turn out to be real, searching for them in one of the most beautiful American landscapes sure was a pleasure. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I mean, on Isleboro, there are some really big spiders. So startlingly big that a legend has grown up in recent decades about the up-island spider living on the upper end of the island and rumored to be as large as 8 inches from toe to toe. It has red eyes. Its footsteps can be heard pattering at night. More down-to-earth versions of legends speculate it's a species of particularly large wolf spider unique to the island. If true that wolf spiders, it's true that wolf spiders are abundant in Maine, including along the coast. You can see them pretty readily. Actually, you can probably walk up and down the beach and see them scurrying among the rocks. The tiny beings dart around sun-bleached sandy beaches. Might seem like houseflies or sand fleas, but they're more likely to be thin-legged wolf spiders of the genus Pardosa. So, some spidering colleagues and I saw them in copious numbers one summer while back on the beach in Petit Manan National Wildlife Refuge. What species of Paradosa were we seeing was nigh on impossible to tell. We would have to catch a couple, bring them back to the lab, and subject them to the microscope procedure if we wanted to find out. Our expedition was part of a large Down East tradition, really. Probably most of the studies done on spiders in Maine have taken place along the Down East coast. And our week-long course on spider identification and biology at Eagle Hill Institute in Steuben was an extension of that long-running research. Starting around the turn of the 20th century, naturalists began inventorying the arthropod population on and around Mount Desert Island. Their list included insects, spiders, and other tiny invertebrates. By then, it was a well-established taxonomic fact that spiders are not insects. Insects have 6 legs, 3 body parts, sometimes wings, sometimes antenna, and sometimes a stinger. Spiders have 8 legs, 2 body parts, no wings, no antenna, and no stinger. And while there are aquatic insects, there are not fully aquatic spiders. I would like to introduce the author of this to the diving bell spider. They certainly are aquatic. This article reads like you're a spider scientist. You don't know about the diving bell spider? What? Some of these animals, some of these semi-aquatic, where are we at? Not fully aquatic, just spiders who happen to live along rivers and ponds, cobbled beaches, and salt marshes. The kind of habitat you might encounter on, say, the upper end of Islesboro. Some of these semi-aquatic spiders can run across the surface of the water, and a few are big enough to catch minnows and drag them ashore to eat. The first substantial list of spider species found in Maine was part of the Biological Survey of Mount Desert Region by William Proctor, published in 1946, following his inventory of invertebrates there in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. The next comprehensive list of spiders in Maine was Spiders, Arachnids, Arania of Millbridge, Washington County, Maine, by Daniel T. Jennings and Frank Graham Jr., published in 2007, based on their collection made from 1991 to 2005 in Millbridge. In October 2020, the checklist of Maine spiders, compiled by Jennings and former state entomologist Charlene Donahue, and listed 677 spider species verified in Maine, was published by the Maine Forest Service. Nowhere on this checklist is there mention of the Up Island spider. Jennings, Maine's foremost spider expert, who passed away in September of 2020, made studies of spiders more or less throughout Maine, from Washington County Blueberry Barrens and the Moosehorn Wildlife Refuge to the northern and central woods. But while spiders are abundant everywhere, particularly interesting discoveries have come from numerous coastal studies. Graham, while collecting spiders around his home in Millbridge in 1991, found a spider he could not identify. With Jennings' help, he figured out it was a European hammock spider, aka Linephia triangularis, never before identified in North America. Subsequently nicknamed Lintree by Graham and Jennings, it was a match to an unidentified specimen found in Brookville in 1983, and they determined it to be an invasive species of sheetweb weaver recently arrived from in the vicinity of MDI. And not without effects, studies found that where the European hammock spider is abundant, as at Acadia, which Acadia is where this island is, other native sheetweb weavers such as the hammock spider and filmy dome spider have become scarce. Meanwhile, in places where Lintree is not widespread, such as Cobscook Bay, area in the early 2000s, the native sheetweb weavers remain abundant. In 2002, researchers working in Winter Harbor found dewdrop spiders, like the cobweb weaver Neospintharis trigonum, eating a female lintrini in her own web. The dewdrop spider was already known to be a kleptoparasite, or a spider that steals prey from other spiders. Now apparently it was eating the web owners themselves. The implications of this have yet to be sorted out, but it is not always smooth sailing for invasive. Jennings had also found a juvenile dewdrop spider in A. L. triangularis web farther south in Pittston in 1999, suggesting the invasive spider's main range was affecting ecologies beyond the down east coast. In our Steuben research, we found at least one individual from most of the spider families listed in Jennings and Graham's Millbridge study: jumping spiders, cobweb weavers, hackle mesh weavers, crab spiders, cellar spiders, orb weavers, ground spiders, and more. Wolf spiders were by far the most numerous spiders in the Millbridge study. Those found down east range in size from tiny to startlingly large. Jennings and Graham found a Pirata minutus individuals can be as small as 0.12 inches in body length along the shore, and Trochosa terricola, whose females can exceed half an inch in body length, inhabit mainly leaf litter in salt marsh areas. We found mother wolf spiders on the stony shoreline carrying their round white egg sacs underneath their spinnerets. Others had their newly hatched spiderlings riding on their backs. As reported of the upland spider, the Schizocosa genus of wolf spider, with body lengths typically around a quarter inch, are found around salt marshes, among other places. Trochosa ruicola, found abundantly along Nagursa Bay by Jennings and Graham, is another invasive from Europe. It arrived sometime before the 1990s and may have displaced its native cousin, Trochosa terricola, on offshore islands. When I asked Jennings a few years ago what might be the most commonly seen spider in Maine, he said after a few moments thought maybe a Paradosa, and in fact the thin-legged wolf spiders we saw darting around the beach at Petit Manan Wildlife Refuge might have been Paradosa moesta, the most numerous species in the Millbridge study. Most Paradosa are roughly medium-sized wolf spiders, so maybe they can be ruled out for the Islesboro up island spider. Schizocosa and Trichosa are often larger, but no one, even when startled, would be apt to make their leg span 8 inches. There are some pretty big orb weaving spiders in Maine, particularly the barn spider, aka Araneus cavaticus, which was Charlotte's Web. Oh, that says it right there. The model for E.B. White's Charlotte, whom he fashioned at his home in Brooklyn. Among the photos I've seen online of up island spiders, some are clearly wolf spiders, which makes sense in the lore because wolf spiders' mothers carry their kids on their backs. Most of the photos, though, appear to be of fishing spiders. This makes even more sense because fishing spiders, also called wharf, dock, or raft spiders, are just about the largest spiders commonly seen in Maine. They live much of their lives hunting near or on the water. They sometimes wander into human habitation. I woke one night with a huge female Dolmedes tenebrosus on my bedroom wall a few inches from my face. It is extremely unlikely that a unique spider species lives only on one end of Isle Burrow, and very unlikely that most sightings of the Up Island spider are of fishing spiders, perhaps as an arachnid specialist assured a journalist some years ago, Dromedes tenebrosus. And just to reassure you, even the largest spiders you're apt to see among the boulders, beaches, and backwoods of Maine's coast are extremely unlikely to bite you. Whether wolf fishing, orb weaver, or other kind, almost all spiders run away as their first defense, and few have jaws strong enough to break human skin. They may seem scary, but they look like little monsters. Spiders are the guardians of your garden and, as it were, the beach. So yeah, upland spider, up island spider has its own. I think it's cute when I have all the spiders on their backs, Umami. But yeah, there's some pictures of specimens that you can clearly see. That's a Dromedes. It's definitely a dark fishing spider, and you can't convince me otherwise. This one I'm not so sure. It looks like a dark fishing spider, but it could be with the blurriness. Yeah. We have Chilean rose hair. Here's one that's supposed to be an upland spider that also, in my opinion, is very clearly a Dromedes fishing spider. So what is a Dromedes fishing spider? Let's watch a little bit about that before I wrap up Cryptic Corner here.
Now that I'm close to it, if this thing runs at me, I might freak. Ah! Hey there, explorers. This is Benzino of the Wild Report. And today, we're exploring a riparian system here in central North Carolina on the hunt for a spider species which might be the largest non-web spinning spider in the state of North Carolina. Okay, right up here is one of my absolute favorite spiders of all time. Beautiful. This one is so pretty.
She was working so hard on that web, you jerk.
She
is beautiful, though.
The marbled orb weaver, because they have this absolute.
All right, let's get to the fishing spider.
Okay, I feel like I find these spiders like all the time when I'm not looking for them. If I'm ever searching for any kind of semi-aquatic snake, there's always these fishing spiders hanging out on the rocks and sticks, never failing to freak me out.
That one's missing some legs.
I can't find one. What the heck? Okay, so what we've got on this log right here is our target species of spider for the day. This species can be difficult to catch because oftentimes they will literally dive underwater. So I'm gonna have to kind of scooch up under it so that when it dives, I can just catch it gracefully, hopefully. That's my plan. It looks kind of scary now that I'm close to it, but I'm sure it's fine. Have you ever been bit by a fishing spider? If this thing runs at me, I might freak. Ah! I knew it. I couldn't stop myself from reacting to it. Oh no. Hold on. I'll find it. Now I have like a personal vendetta. No, we didn't touch my. Oh, it's still here. It's still. Oh, it's gonna go under the log. Okay, hold on. You can't scare me, probably, unless you can. Oh, why are you so big? Let's make an arrangement, shall we?
Why are you so big?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes, perfect. Okay, that went so well.
In order to capture the prey, these are ambush predators. Their common name, or the common name of this family, comes from the fact that the largest members of this genus, like the dark fishing spider, are actually large enough that they can prey on small fish. And they have some remarkable adaptations that allows them to persist and hunt prey in these aquatic environments. So, like you saw maybe when I was trying to catch it, they can actually go under the water and they can float on top of the water.
So most spiders can survive in the water, at least to some extent. Even tarantulas, and they can swim. They don't breathe like through their mouth like vertebrates do. They're that's where arthropods have the advantage. They got vents on their where they have their vents on would be similar to you having like down your sides. Like if you had your like vents for your lungs down your side instead of coming through your mouth. So as long as they keep oxygen in those, they're good to go for a little bit.
Now, I know it sounds crazy that a spider would be able to go underwater and not drown, right? And they don't have gills or anything like that, but what they do, they actually trap air bubbles in the sensory hairs, and each of those air bubbles provides a little bit of oxygen that they can use underwater. They're gonna run over, grab it with their fangs, inject this pretty potent neurotoxic venom. This venom is not medically significant to humans, so if you do
Look at that thing really close to his skin.
It's supposed to feel about like a bee or a wasp sting in terms of pain level, because it's mostly designed to paralyze the nervous systems of its prey items, which is especially important in these aquatic systems because it's flowing water. So if this spider injects venom and it's not very strong and that prey item floats downstream, well, not only has it wasted venom, it's also missed out on a meal. They are using sensory hairs on their legs to detect prey, but they also have a pretty exceptional vision compared to other
pretty
spiders
good eyes
because they don't spin webs, and they're using those eyes to find prey as well as using those extremely sensitive hairs. Now, obviously, this is a pretty large spider. In fact, I would say this is the largest spider that I have caught in North Carolina. And because they get pretty big and they can be kind of hairy and a little bit freaky looking, may be tempting if you see one near your house to kind of, you know, maybe squash it or something, but there is no reason to be scared of these spiders. I'm literally holding this one in my hand. It is not biting me, it's not being aggressive, anything like that. And
Yeah, they're pretty harmless.
not only are they pretty docile and harmless to humans, they're also really important for ecosystems. Even though they aren't as high up on the food chain as something like a snake, they are still secondary consumers, and so they're really important for transferring energy to higher levels of the trophic pyramid. And I hope that the next time you see one in the wild, you can appreciate them for the beautiful and uniquely adapted animals that they really are. You ready to go back to your log?
The water was just deep. Would not focus.
My friend. If you like learning
Good
about
friend.
this amazing
Yeah. Anyway, so that's gonna be Cryptic Corner for this morning. Yeah, giant spiders in North America. They're there as far as cryptids go, with some actual folklore, not just fake lore, right? So at least for the Up Island spider, there's some folklore to it, some real folklore, not just again fake lore. But do you think that the Up Island giant spider was a fishing spider? What about that Mojave giant tarantula? What species do you think that was? We've seen quite a few. Then there was that giant crab in Canada, or whatever the heck is this. You described it as a spider. Sound like a crab to me. But anyhow, let me know in the comments below if there was a giant spider that I missed from North America. Drop it in the comments. I would love to do like a follow up to this if we get more of these. If you know of any folklore about them, send it to, or you can comment that too. I'm more interested in modern sightings in cryptozoology than folklore, but I do like it when there's actual folklore attached to the cryptid, because I think that it adds a layer of culture to the cryptid itself. Oh my gosh, thank you, Wild World. Appreciate you. That's £5. I always forget you're in the UK because you sound American. Yeah, spiders have toe beans. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to close out Cryptic Corner now. There's more live from the Hive to come, but for my Cryptic Corner viewers, please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time.